What is going on, beautiful people? My name is Sam. This is going to be the UFC 314 recap. We're going to start off by highlighting my underdog opportunity. We're going to talk about a prop that I hit. Then we're going to bust into the fights. And don't worry, there will be chapters for each and every single fight, so you can jump to the one you want to get to. Let's get into it. First off, the underdog opportunity was Dominic Reyes. That came through with flying colors. Dominic Reyes is back, and as he says, he's not back, he's better, baby. On a 3-fight finish streak. Now, Dominic Reyes is right back in the title mix, and I'm happy that we chose him as one of the only underdogs that won on that card, and the only underdog that got a true finish, in my opinion. And speaking of finishes, we bet him. If you guys tailed the official premium plays, you would have seen Dominic Reyes by knockout was on there. That came through. The best finish on the card. I will take that to debate. Absolutely. The one-shot left-hand knockout was absolutely clean. Nikita Krylov was out before he even hit the canvas. Dominic Reyes put some icing on the cake with some hammer fist. Beautiful stuff, man. Dominic Reyes, thank you very much for putting some money in my community's bank account. Let's get into the fights. First fight, Nora Cornolle versus Hailey Cowan. Who cares is the title that I've put on here. And listen, I know you're going to say, that's disrespectful. These women put on a fight for us. This was an Apex quality fight. Nora Cornolle is not must-see television. Hailey Cowan, I didn't really care about. And if somebody did, somebody wanted to see where her career was going, please let me know in the comments. I don't know why this made a pay-per-view card. This was absolutely an Apex level fight, if you ask me personally. So even though this fight ended in a finish, I was kind of just glad that we got through it and on to the next one. Then we had Marco Tulio versus Tresean Gore. And in my opinion, I understand title fight implications, 5 rounds, all the rest of it. The fight of the night got given to Alexander Volkanovski versus Diego Lopes. I thought this was fight of the night, and this was definitely the performance of the night for me. Is Marco Tulio came out here, and he had no concern for a gas tank. He poured on the offense, and he never stopped, man. He did not let up, and credit, because it takes two to tango here. This is why I'm saying this had the opportunity of fight of the night as well. Tresean Gore went out on his shield, man. This dude just kept fighting, kept coming through, eating hammers, eating body kicks, eating everything that Marco Tulio would throw. And as a Marco Tulio better, I was starting to worry. I was like, man, what if he gasses? What if he just can't get him out of here? But Marco Tulio showed great conditioning. He showed great composure, and he went out there, and ultimately, there was only a few instances where it looked like he could have been in trouble. Other than that, he was in the driver's seat the whole time. Marco Tulio, man, one to watch out. People, including myself, early on in the week were saying that the odds may be wide. He looked a minus 1,000 in there, man. Marco Tulio, well done. Beautiful performance. Arguably, in my eyes, the best performance of the night. Then we move on. We had Sumaderji versus Mitch Raposo, and this was a split decision. And if you go back and watch that fight and you tell me that it was a split decision, you're either a lifelong grappler or a wrestling coach, because that's all you're looking for. If you're looking at this from an MMA fight standpoint, Sumaderji was in the driver's seat for 90% of this fight. Every time that Mitch Raposo got a takedown, Sumaderji get straight back up. He would stop any offense. So Sumaderji, to me, 30-27. If you want to argue 29-28 and you want to argue one round, sure. But a split decision, I don't think so, man. Sumaderji won that fight clean and ready. I'm gonna say that Sumaderji, man, he made Mitch Raposo not look UFC level, especially considering Sumaderji's had a patchy record in the UFC. And now that it's 4 attempts that Mitch Raposo has had at breaking through into the UFC and failed on 4 attempts, I mean, where does he go from here? Where does he go from here? Then we had Michal versus Cedric Dumas. And I'd had a perfect run up until this point of the night. I know we'd only been a few fights through, but I was feeling high, feeling good about myself. I had made a prediction that Cedric Dumas would win this fight with grappling and top control. He didn't shoot a single takedown. He sort of panicked around the octagon, and then there was an odd shot that knocked him down, and then he didn't even look that hurt, but he just didn't answer back or do anything to advance position. It was a stoppage. It was bizarre. I understand why the referee stood in and stopped it. I don't understand Cedric Dumas' decisions. I'm not going to scream match fixing or rigged or anything like that, but Cedric Dumas had some very questionable decision-making throughout the entire fight. A weird fight. Terrible pick from myself. If anybody tailed that, it's on me, dog. I clearly thought Cedric Dumas was better than that. As for Michal, future fade for sure. He didn't look any better than I anticipated he would. Cedric Dumas just turned up and didn't really seem like he wanted to fight. Then we had Julian Erosa versus Darren Elkins, and this fight made me feel like I wasn't insane because I watched the tape study and I was like, Julian Erosa is not getting KO'd here by Darren Elkins, which means he's winning this fight. When Julian Erosa doesn't get knocked out, his output is insane. You go look at his equity in his decisions, and you guys can check this out on We Want Picks Premium as well, because you can go to Premium, you can use the data analyzer. If you use the data analyzer and you take Julian Erosa in decisions and you just look at the data from that, dude is crazy high output. This guy has a gas tank. He's always throwing things up, even off of his back. He never stops working. And that's why here, when the takedown was going to be the path of victory here for Darren Elkins, I just didn't believe in it at all. His age, his damage that he had taken, all the rest of it. And this was a one-sided beatdown. I felt bad. I felt bad taking the money that I received on betting on Julian Erosa. I was like, man, feels wrong. Feels wrong just watching this old guy get his ass beat by Julian Erosa. But I felt happy for Juicy J, man. He went out there, did what he had to do. I think they could have stopped it earlier, man. It looked like for a little while there, we all knew, the crowd knew, the fans knew, Darren Elkins wasn't coming back. And I know you want to talk about the history of him, coming back, taking his beatings and his lickings and coming forward. I don't know, man. It looks like this dude needs to hang it up. I was kind of hoping his corner threw in the towel because he was a sloppy, stumbling mess out there. But then we had Chase Hooper, and Chase Hooper took on Jim Miller. And I tell you right now, this is a fight where I thought Chase Hooper was going to look better than he is, but maybe I once again discredited who Jim Miller is. Jim fucking Miller. Jim Miller came out there in round one. He had me scared. I was a little bit trembling. I was like, maybe I've overexposed myself on Chase Hooper. Ultimately, we came through. Things went the way that they were anticipating to go, other than getting the finish, which obviously he did try to get, but it was a bit too Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu nerd for me, for my liking. I would have liked to see Chase get back to the striking or some ground and pound. I think he would have had a higher percentage chance of finding a finish with that. Maybe he was trying to flex on him, trying to get a weird submission, but who knows? He won the fight. It is what it is. Money still hits my bank account the same way. Then we had the Virna Jandiroba versus Xiaonan fight, and the title here, Grappling Reigns Supreme. I mean, it's true. There's not that much power in these women's divisions, so there's less likelihood of a one-shot knockout. And even though Xiaonan has power in her hands and is a pretty good striker, if you're a stronger grappler in these divisions and you can stick to a game plan, you're almost always going to come out on top, especially when you're Virna and you're somebody that's pretty big for the division and physically strong. You can see her grip strength was probably the key driving factor here in her grappling success. Every time that she would get a hold of Xiaonan, she would either be working towards a Kimura, working on a half Nelson, pressing her down in the back of her neck. She was doing a lot of things to maintain position and be in a flow state. So congratulations to Virna Jandiroba. Very convincing victory. And a few times I thought she was going to find the submission as well. Dan Ige, Sean Woodson, what on God's green earth was that stoppage? What are we talking about here? Sean Woodson gets rocked, very clearly rocked. He regains his composure. He shoots a takedown to see maybe I can settle in on a position here. Understands it's not working, plants one hand down on the canvas and prepares to stand up and remove himself from the takedown, and the referee steps in. He was not hurt at that point. He had recovered. He was getting ready to stand back up. Congratulations to Dan Ige. He did what he needed to get the W here. No hate on Dan Ige whatsoever. The guy's an absolute stud. He's a superstar. I think Sean Woodson was robbed of his opportunity there. And it's not about the outcome, guys. It's about giving these fighters a fair opportunity and also a betting outcome. If you guys don't know, if you've been living under a rock somewhere and you haven't seen the safety parlay, Angelo's safety parlay was cracked because of this referee. It was about a minute away from hitting, and I think he would have survived, would have made it to that 2.5 round mark, and I don't know, man. I hate to see it. Now, this slide says 9-4, and if you're wondering, what on earth are you putting numbers on this one for? I have a series here. It's called Underdog Opportunity, where I pick one underdog every single week that I believe is going to win, and it is 9-4 this year. That stat is absolutely phenomenal. 9-4, picking underdogs week in and week out. If you were to just bet that prop alone, your ROI would be through the goddamn roof. So Dominic Reyes went out here, the best underdog on the card. He goes out there, knocks out Nikita Krylov at 5 times money. Say less, man. If that's not enough to entice you to check out the We Want Picks premium bets, I don't know what is. But if you want to become a premium member and unlock my premium bets, sign up using the link in the description of this video. Code BETSAM for 10% off, and I'll see you all there. Then we had Jean Silva versus Bryce Mitchell, and A Star is Rising is what I've got wrote down here because I don't know how else to say it. I was bothered by Jean Silva's antics early on in his career. I'm learning to love them. His performances are always entertaining. He's a finished machine. And even when you doubt him, he goes out here, out-grapples Bryce Mitchell and says, I don't care what you guys say that I can't sub Bryce Mitchell. Let me just ninja choke this guy, get a front choke on him, whatever, jump guillotine. Jean Silva doesn't give a damn what we think as analysts, doesn't give a damn what you think. You know, he goes out there and just proves that he is one of the best in the world. He's looking elite. And it's hard to imagine anybody beating him. I think that somebody's going to have to try and outpoint him because if you go into the fire with him, it seems like you're going to get torched, man. Jean Silva and the Fighting Nerds are aura farming to an absolute maximum. I mean, it is just insane out there. Then we had Yair Rodriguez versus Patricio Pitbull. And this is UFC Reign Supreme. And we're going to talk about two fights here because this is a Bellator GOAT, essentially. You know, Patricio Pitbull, probably the greatest Bellator fighter that's ever walked the face of the earth. And he came over here and just got mollywopped by Yair Rodriguez and dog-walked for the majority of this fight. Yair Rodriguez was close to finishing him at times, always looked like he was in the driver's seat. Yair Rodriguez just made a fool out of him. And it looked like maybe the lights were too bright. I don't know, man. But Patricio Pitbull didn't look like he was a world champion in there against Yair Rodriguez. It looked like he didn't belong in there with Yair Rodriguez. So UFC Reign Supreme, W for the UFC promotion there, bringing in a guy and just showing that there are levels to this. Then we had the second half of why the UFC Reign Supreme. Former Bellator champion Michael Chandler getting absolutely mollywopped by the boy, Paddy the Baddy Pimblett. I mean, Paddy Pimblett, people were picking Michael Chandler. People told me all week that I was insane for picking Paddy Pimblett. They said, his chin's up in the air, he's going to get knocked out. Paddy Pimblett beat on Chandler, turned Chandler into a wrestler, then showed him that's not going to work either, and beat him into a TKO stoppage. Paddy Pimblett looked amazing. Michael Chandler, he's not who we thought he is. You know, I know that Michael Chandler is exciting. He's a ball of energy. But people thought that he was a good enough striker to be able to capitalize on the errors that Paddy Pimblett has defensively, and that is just not the case. It seems like, you know, Michael Chandler at this point in his career is a power merchant who just doesn't have it to compete at the top. Heading into the main event, we had Diego Lopes versus Alexander Volkanovski, and skill-wise, Volk is 100% there. And I'm sorry, guys, you can hear I'm sick as a dog right now. I've got a cold, but skill-wise, Volkanovski is every bit still the champion. His chin, questionable. Every time he got touched and it hit him clean in the face, he was wobbled. He was all over the place. He did enough to get on his bike and get away from Diego Lopes, but a better, more calculated striker would have killed him in there in those instances because, listen, man, Diego Lopes didn't capitalize on the times that he was able to get Volk hurt. And if somebody is more calculated and is able to cut him off on the cage rather than just follow him and track him, they're going to capitalize on it, just like we saw happen with Ilia Topuria. So Volk is back. He is the UFC featherweight champion, but how long can he remain at the top? I don't see a long reign at this point. I'm happy for him. Volkanovski, you're the absolute man, the short king, Australia's the Volk, as they like to call him. You know, head of the featherweights once again. It seems like balance is restored, but the chin is not what it used to be. And, you know, despite turning out a great performance, I think there's a reason why he called out Movsar Evloev, and it's because Movsar doesn't have any recorded KOs in recent times. So, Volkanovski, take the Movsar fight. I think it's your best path forward. Guys, that is the breakdown. Thank you all for watching this recap. And once again, I will say, if you do want to become a premium member, support your boy and unlock all the bets and more, sign up using the link in the description. Code BETSAM. I will see you all in the next video.